A hearty welcome to our modern philosophy class. We are with John Locke, and we have seen already the first part of it nicely, particularly the epistemology. And epistemology, we have taken already 2 points, namely theory of knowledge, origin of knowledge. The first one is refutation of innate ideas. Refutation means to reject. And then experience is the source of knowledge. And then what is experience? Clear. We have analyzed it completely. I don't have to go once again. Experience. No longer these philosophers, empiricist philosophers hold the theory of innate ideas. For them, innate idea, no innate ideas. Mind is empty slate or empty paper. Tabula rasa. Remember that word, you need to study by heart. Therefore, all our sources of knowledge is experience. Experience is twofold, namely external. External means through the 5 senses. Whatever you get through the senses are brought forward and then called internal. Thus you have reflection. You reflect about what you have received through the senses, and thus ideas are formed. Clear? So this is a nutshell, the epistemology. Clear? So you get through the senses, and what is received through the senses are not knowledge. But what is received through the senses are brought in, and they kind of, if you simply, in a rough language, a cooking is done. Well, don't get confused when you hear cooking. Yes, what do you do in a cooking? A similarity I can simply speak about. Well, you have rice, you need water, fire, and cook it. Then only you call it. Yes, it is ready for eating. You put potato, onion, drumstick, pappu and everything together in proportion. Boil it. Put also powder. You call it sambar. Simple. Or anything for that matter. In other words, the raw materials are not called food items. Simply keeping a few ladies' finger, you say, don't call it bendakai curry, no? You call it bendakai, kakarakai for that matter, anything. They are called raw materials. When cooked in proportion with salt and everything, you call it kakarakai curry. So also, whatever you get through the senses are external. They are fragments of knowledge. They are not knowledge. They are brought in with the help of a reflection. You form ideas. What did Locke say about ideas? Yes, what primarily the mind creates is simple ideas. And later we go on making it complex ideas and all that is. So that is what we have seen up to now. Now, the third point is degree. Degree of knowledge. Clear? Or degree and extension of knowledge. Extension means, yes, how far and all that is. While again here, you have seen in your first year as well as first part of the second year, kinds of knowledge. Well, traditionally it had been sense knowledge, rational knowledge. Some people call it rational knowledge. It is not ration, it is rational knowledge. And then intuitive knowledge. Well, when we come to, yes, John Locke, yes, he too makes this distinction, namely intuitive knowledge, rational knowledge, and sense knowledge. Okay, I will explain to you. I will explain the whole thing and then start dictating. All right, here there is something the students of philosophy, second year, should be very careful. Sense knowledge, rational knowledge, intuitive knowledge. He begins with intuitive knowledge, rational knowledge, sense knowledge. Okay, what is intuitive knowledge? When you studied already, you don't need any calculation. You can perceive its immediate connection without the help of any rationalization, intuitive. With the help of rationalization, yes, you get rational knowledge, and then the sense knowledge. Okay, this is sense knowledge. If you start from the lower, sense knowledge, little higher, rational knowledge, and third, intuitive knowledge. And so he speaks about intuitive knowledge from the point of view of its grade of perfection. Intuitive knowledge is the highest form, the second is rational, and the third is sense knowledge. Well, this is the completion of theory of knowledge or epistemology. And now the next point also I take, namely 3, so that I can dictate them one by one. Clear? 3, philosophy of the world, philosophy of the self, and philosophy of God. Yes, the traditional terminologies, philosophical notions filled with a lot of meaning are these. Clear? So, the philosophy of the world, self and God, or self, God and world, that may be better. Clear? Yes, philosophy of the self, God, world. And now, I would only say 3 sentences to speak about this section. Clear? Only 3 simple sentences. Now the point is, well, I had already asked third year philosophers, yes, talking about anthropology, yes, study or bring about the definitions given by Greek, medieval and modern philosophers regarding man, God and world. Now, in John Locke too, we find talking about 3 realities, namely self, God and world. How do we come to know the 3? 1 sentence each. You will have to reverse the model that was given by all others when you come to John Locke. Regarding self, how do you come to know the existence of self? Yes, here is the difference between John Locke and the rest of the philosophers. Well, he says, you have the intuitive knowledge about yourself. Intuitive knowledge. And you have demonstrative knowledge, means rational knowledge. You have the demonstrative knowledge of God, and you have the sense knowledge about the world. Simple 3 sentences. Remember, you can very well write. So in other words, regarding the self, you have intuitive knowledge. You come to know the self through intuitive knowledge, and you are able to demonstrate the existence of God, and then you have the sense knowledge. So that is what is called the philosophy of the self, the philosophy of God, and philosophy of the world. So only now we enter into the dictation of it. Okay, first we have the degree and extension of knowledge. All right. So, that we will first we give an introduction to what is knowledge and all according to Locke, and then we proceed. Now, according to Locke, knowledge is nothing more than the perception of the connection of and disagreement or agreement of our ideas. You just think about that definition. You get the clue of philosophy. According to Locke, knowledge is nothing more than the perception of the connection of and agreement or disagreement of our ideas. This definition you keep in mind and just look outside. You look at a sunny day, a very bright day, a warm day. Now, what is knowledge? According to John Locke says, knowledge is the perception of the connection of and agreement or disagreement with the ideas. So, now I am going to make a statement about the climate. Yes, it's a very warm sunny day. Perception of the connection of agreement or disagreement of ideas. That is what is, according to him, knowledge. Yes, you see it, you feel it, and you say, it's a bright sunny day. The agreement and the connection of ideas. Now, when you say a bright sunny day, you have the idea of a bright day and also a warm day. You feel it, you see it, and the idea that is in your mind about a warm day is exactly in agreement with what you see, what you feel. So that's what is called. So in other words, ideas are in the mind. Whatever is in the mind, you say, you hold, should correspond to what is already outside. That is what is called, yes, knowledge for him. Okay, and then as we have said, our ideas enter single file into our minds. In other words, what we have said at the end, what is that? Yes, the mind is capable of, yes, producing ideas with the help of the senses and what is received through the senses. You make a reflection and you form simple ideas. That remains the base for knowledge. And then we say something more about it. There are three kinds, or there are 3 degrees of knowledge. That is the best way to say. Instead of saying kinds, best to say there are 3 degrees. Why degrees? In terms of perfection. Clear? Sense knowledge is lower, and then rational knowledge is higher than in terms of degree, and intuitive knowledge is the most perfect type of degree of knowledge. That's why. Clear? So we say there are 3 degrees of knowledge. What are they? Intuitive, demonstrative, and sense knowledge. Already explained. So, intuitive, demonstrative, and sense knowledge. Now, explanation for intuitive knowledge. What is intuitive knowledge? Intuitive knowledge is immediate. Yes, that doesn't need, as a philosophical expression it is. Immediate means you don't have to bring in the subject and the object and the predicate, and then in their agreement or disagreement. That is what is already defined first. Clear? Okay. Intuitive knowledge is immediate, leaves no doubt, L-E-A-V-E-S, leaves no doubt, leaves no doubt. In other words, there is no room for doubt. That's the point. There is no room for doubt. That is intuitive knowledge. That's what you studied from the first year onwards. Yes, is reconfirmed. And then leaves for no doubt and is the clearest and most certain. Yes, underline. Clearest and most certain. There is no question of doubt there. Yes, that's why he said we will see it, intuitive notion about our existence. Don't have to demonstrate. That's all. Okay. So in other words, clearest and most certain and immediate and leaves no certain and no doubt, leaves no doubt, and is the clearest and most certain that human frailty is capable of. Yes. In other words, intuitive knowledge is the most sure knowledge, weak that we are, that we can possess or we can have. Okay, that is intuitive knowledge. What happens in intuition? In intuition, I perceive the agreement or of any other. Yes, intuition. Black is not white. Black is not white. Yes. Or any other example you want, you can use it. Yes. In other words, a direct perception without the intermediary link of reasoning. That's all. All right. Circle is not square. Yes, circle is not square. Yes, immediate perception. And all that is. Or 3 is more than 2. Okay. You don't have to verify. You don't have to demonstrate. Simply a perception. Intuition. So a perception we cannot say. Intuition. But so that's the first one, namely intuitive knowledge. Second one is demonstrative knowledge. Demonstrative knowledge occurs when our minds engage in trying to other ideas. Yes. In other words, searching for the connection. That's the thing. Demonstrative knowledge occurs when our minds engage in trying to other ideas. Example, the three angles of a triangle equal 180. This is that you studied in mathematics. 3 angles of a triangle equals 180. For that, well, you have to go for demonstration. Yes, you have to draw this one, mark here, mark there, and mark this. And then you say this is equal to 180. You also studied mathematics. At that time, if you have gone for plucking tapioca and mango, throwing on the mango trees, I'm not responsible. You studied it already. Okay, it's only by way of tamash. Yes, that is demonstrative knowledge. And then, third one, sense knowledge or sensitive knowledge. According to him, it is not knowledge. Yes, from the theory of knowledge, you understand that it's only has to be taken in and reflected, and thus you form ideas. So, okay, it's not knowledge in the strict sense of the term. It only passes under the name of knowledge. It's only passing under the name of knowledge. That is clear from the epistemology we have seen already. That epistemology of John Locke is to be studied thoroughly. That is, refutation of innate ideas, experience is the source of knowledge, and the analysis of experience, and then degree of knowledge. These three together, it will be a wonderful essay. If the person who is going to ask questions for the university, kind enough, he can ask that nice question. Okay. Okay, that is about the degree and extension of knowledge. And then we enter into number 3, degree, philosophy of the self, God and world. Now, first one is self, the spiritual substance. Okay, one is self, second one is God and world. Clear? So, the spiritual self called, yes, the substance. Well, as I said, you have the intuitive knowledge of the self. You have the rational knowledge of the world, and you have the sense knowledge of the world. So, God, self, regarding self, you have intuitive knowledge. Regarding God, you have demonstrative knowledge. And regarding the world, you have sense knowledge. Through your senses, you get it, and then through the senses, you get it, and then you reflect, and thus you form ideas about the world. Clear? Now, first one, namely self. We know our existence by intuition. We know our existence by intuition. It's already in the note. Rest you read beautifully, you get it. The whole thing is an explanation about it. I can also read it. This has not said anything about the substantiality of the ego. You intuitively know who you are, your existence of yourself, but not anything substantially about the self, what is the self, how it is, and all that. But then you have the intuitive knowledge about your self. The idea of the spiritual substance of the soul is not an innate idea, but it is God by combining together simple ideas of thinking, doubting, and so on, which has these operations in here. Ultimately, the concept of the spiritual substance, that is, substance that thinks, takes us back to Descartes. So in other words, well, there is a substantiality in us, yes, the thinking subject, but then you slowly intuit the existence. If you take a little bit of Indian philosophy along with it, well, this is a process, and Western philosophy later in the third year, process philosophy will tell us, yeah, you are born as a child, you grow and you become reasonably, intellectually thinking, slowly you constitute yourself. In other words, well, you become aware of your own existence and the worth of it. Your talents, your capacities, spiritual powers in you, and all that, you constitute yourself. And that it becomes an intuitive knowledge. Clear? That's the thing. Second is God's existence. God's existence is known through demonstration. Yes, you try to demonstrate God's existence. Well, that is something we know in the Western philosophy, the Thomistic philosophy. Yes, you studied St. Thomas. Yes, he's trying to prove God's existence, demonstrative. Yes, argument from contingency, argument from, yes, final cause and all that is. So these are called demonstrative, yes, argument. Just as we have the intuition of ourselves, so also we have the intuition that nothing can produce anything real. At least there is one thing which is real to me. For instance, I also know it had a beginning and all that is. So in other words, a demonstrative knowledge, you know it. And the third one is three, external world. We have the knowledge of the external world through sensitive knowledge or sense knowledge. Okay. According to Locke, the world is composed of substances of or supports or bearers of powers, qualities and actions. That is what is analyzed in the theory of knowledge. Experience is the source of knowledge. Yes, five senses bring in impressions about what is felt, what is seen, what is tasted, what is smelled, and taken inside, and you reflect, and thus you form ideas. Same thing in a different way put in this section. Therefore, it is something very interesting. Locke should become a base for you, because when you come next year for third year, and towards the end of second year, we have also, yes, Kant giving us more concrete, rational way how this process of integration takes place. Yes, he brings in, combines rationalism and empiricism. There, the empiricist principal points are taken, and the rationalist basic ideas taken and combined in a very transcendental philosophy. There you get the base, and there he will also speak about, Kant will talk about conditions of the possibility of knowledge. How do you get knowledge? Namely, transcendental aesthetics, space and time, transcendental analytic, the human categories. Yes, whatever is seen in space and time, that is absorbed, and to whatever is seen and heard and tasted and experienced are to be named. For that you have the categories, bring together, you have the knowledge. So, thus he will say, you know only about the phenomena. There comes in the third year the study of phenomenology, study of the phenomenon. Clear? So, all this have its base here in John Locke. Therefore, yes, keep this as a base for your further philosophical building up of your thought. Okay. Then we come to the next point, namely Locke's social philosophy. Well, under that there are 2 points, namely Locke's understanding of ethics and politics. Very, very simple. Now, without going into the notes that is with you, well, what can you say about the ethics of John Locke? Say 2, 3 beautiful sentences. What is it? Well, empiricist philosophers rules out what? Innate ideas. There are no innate ideas. Then all our ideas, where does it come from? That's a question. It's coming from experience. So there are no innate moral principles. There are no innate moral principles. How do you get it then? You get it through experience. Yes, exactly like, yes, knowledge comes, also moral knowledge comes from experience. In other words, well, different ways. Through traditions we are taught, through the wonderful models of elders you are learned, and you are being taught morality. Means it is a slow, steady process of learning moral principles. That's the thing. So every stage we go on learning. That's the point. So, as an empiricist, Locke offers an empirical theory of ethics, which ends by saying an egoistic hedonism. There are no innate moral truths. We make judgments without having any rules. Okay. But then pleasure and pain are the greatest teachers of morality. Pleasure and pain. Pleasure and Pain are the greatest teachers of morality. You love, you appreciate, you encourage pleasure. You discourage, disconnect yourself, disagree with, and run away from pain. That's why towards the end of your second year, you will come to study, yes, something at the end. Clear? Yes, then you will know this theory very well later. That is pleasure principles. Clear? Yes. At the end, the last unit after Karl Marx and then positivism. You will learn it. There you will come across again. So these are the two principles that becomes the teachers of our life, namely pleasure principle and pain principle. That which gives us pleasure, you accept. That which gives you pain, you reject. But then later theories will modify this one very well. Nature has placed in man a desire for happiness and aversion to misery. Yes, that's the point. Desire for pleasure and aversion to misery. Good is that which is apt to cause or increase pleasure. Yes, that which gives us pleasure is good, and that which diminishes it is pain, or in other words, that which is giving us pain is bad. So that is. There are three types of law: divine law, civil law, and law of opinion. This we have also similar in other forms of thinking. Therefore, yes, then law is made and all that is for, yes, to protect this. Politics, that is B. Clear? Politics. Yes, Locke too makes a distinction between state of nature, underline. Locke makes a distinction between a state of nature and the state of society. State of what? State of nature, and then state of society. Yes, while dealing with Renaissance, we spoke about somebody. Well, you need to recover that person. Yes, man is a wolf to his neighbor. Yes, initially human nature. So, please remember these two. State of nature. Yes, where we look for only our own selfishness. In other words, our self-interest. Yes, that's what is called state. Here is not the district state of Andhra Pradesh or Kerala or Tamil Nadu. State means being, a kind of an attitude. All right. So in other words, the state of nature is, yes, man is self-centered, self-interest seeking, and all that is. And then he makes a distinction between state of nature and state of society. Society is formed so that not only your self-interest is looked after, not only yourself is affirmed, but rather also the self in interest of others. In other words, you grow from the state of nature to the state of society. In other words, again, whatever you consider your development, yes, is given to the state, and the state will look after not only your interest, but even the interest of others. Therefore, yes, that is how the politics come. Those who study political philosophy, very interesting how the political philosophy got developed. There people will say, as in the beginning man was a wolf to his neighbor. In other words, people were only interested in looking after, protecting, taking care of their self-interest, all that is. So in other words, man was selfish. And from that selfishness he understood, I cannot be, yes, wolf to my neighbor, clear, yes. And therefore, yes, they come together and they elect a leader, and the leader will look after the interest of everyone, safeguarding their interest. At the same time, he will see that they will not fight and all that. So this is what is called state of nature, is selfishness, and state of society. Thereby, well, we learn many things, and that is also through experience. Clear? Yes, Thomas Hobbes only, he said, man is a wolf to his neighbor. Locke says that even in the period of nature, man was quite rational and had the notion of fundamental rights of life, underline. Yes, liberty and property, right to property, etc. And only a better guarantees such rights to better guarantee. In other words, is fought alone. Yes, what I am going to gain is less. Therefore, if fought together, taken care of together, well, we can enjoy better. Therefore, the state came into existence. That is the point. Only to better guarantee such rights, he entered into a contract and conceded some of his rights to the sovereign to safeguard the rights of his subjects. So, that's the thing. One of the important rights is the right to private property. Clear? So that is the thing. So in other words, yes, in the initial state of nature, man was selfish, but then at the same time, he understood if jointly fought together, we can have safeguarded better. Therefore, the state of society comes. Now, a word of critical appraisal. John Locke has brought out, or the empiricism has brought out one aspect which was totally neglected by the rationalist philosophers, namely human experience. Human experience. Empiricism. So that's the thing. In other words, the experience was forgotten, and the rationalist philosophers, they insisted upon innate ideas. But here they said all what we know should begin with to speak about experience. So he has brought out that aspect well. But then later when we come to Kant, we will criticize both rationalism as well as empiricism. Why? Empiricism is also, yes, one-eyed person. In other words, moves with one aspect forgotten, namely, yes, the mind is capable of making the experience wonderful. That was forgotten. So, it's not only the end. Well, we wind up now, Locke, and then later we enter into Berkeley. So, keep in mind some of the salient features of, yes, empiricism. That will help you also to understand Berkeley. A step further, when we take up Berkeley, I will bring again John Locke back, because John Locke has drawn certain conclusions, and those conclusions are taken forward by, yes, is going to be taken forward by Berkeley. That we will deal it when we see Berkeley. Thank you very much.